Hello and welcome to the Risk Control Show. I'm Steve Wilmes, and that over there is Matt Guida.
Hey, everybody.
It's been a long time. Matt and I have been working our butts off, and we were working on roofs, and we were working in the heat. And my mother had a stroke, and I was in St. Louis. And what else did we do, Matt? I mean, we've just been running, running,
Yeah,
running, running.
we've been, and that's the thing. Although we're still, of course, doing plenty of work for local clients as well, it does feel like we've picked up quite a bit of work from clients that are a little bit further away. So it's resulting in a lot of travel for us, which certainly does fill up the day and the week.
Without a doubt. Well, Matt and I, we experienced some radiant heat out there. We did a roofing project where we were looking at fall protection on all the roofs and really trying to identify the slopes and access points and all these types of things. And we're going to talk a lot about that in a podcast coming up about roofs. But this one's focused on heat illness. And if
Yeah.
you're not aware, CalOSHA has the new standard 3396 for indoor heat, and it requires training. Got a lot of the same types of provisions as it does for outdoor heat illness. And we're just looking at this and thinking there's a couple things that CalOSHA needs to really try to help us out with.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Matt and I were talking like, what is the deal? Like, who's writing these things, and why is it so crazy? Like, why didn't they just add to 3395? Hey, do this for the inside. I mean, all these definitions and all this stuff is already there. We got a couple things like temperatures. When you look at temperature, measuring the temperature for outdoor heat, you're supposed to use a dry bulb thermometer. Nobody's doing that. And
Right.
then for indoor heat, you're supposed to use a globe thermometer to measure radiant heat. And it's got to have a black base and it can't be shielded from whatever. And it's just like, what? How are we getting to these different types of thermometers to measure things? And obviously, in schools and even our public agencies, we don't want mercury. If a thermometer breaks, or like if a barometer, this is the weirdest thing, Matt. If a barometer breaks, well, the regulations aren't the same for the cleanup. However, if a thermometer breaks, then you have all these hazardous waste and different types of
Right.
regulations that you must follow. And I know people are going, no, mercury's mercury. Yeah, barometers are a little different, and it depends on the amount that's in there. But you have a pass on a barometer. Why? Because someone wanted to make the differentiation about these little specific things. And it's
Right.
crazy. Mercury's mercury. But nobody wants mercury thermometers in their facilities anymore, because if they break, it's going to cost you $5,000 to $10,000 to clean the shit up. Oh, did
Yep.
I say that word? I, I just like, seriously. And Matt, the best one was several years ago when we were dealing with the outdoor heat. We had a client that got cited by OSHA. So this they work on trails, and they work with the wayward youth. So this is a
Hmm.
person that was on probation. They get assigned to come out and work with this group. They're going on a 3-day spike. And the first day he comes to work and he's high on meth and everything else. And he,
Right.
everybody's like, you have to take them. You're, you have to. It's required by the law. I mean, they're on probation. Like, you got to take them. So he gets sick. He goes to the hospital and he says, "Oh yeah, it's due to the heat, not the meth,
Yeah, not the meth at all. No,
the heat."
no.
So we
Yeah.
got this big $50,000 citation, and I requested all the file from OSHA, and I get the pictures of OSHA taking the temperature, and they're
Yeah.
using their phone, and it's
Their
like,
phone.
well, wait, you guys didn't measure using your own standard. Like, nobody's carrying a mercury thermometer dry bulb out to the middle of nowhere. It's not
Right.
happening.
Right.
just unreal. And so here we are with the indoor heat, this new standard. Obviously, if you have locations that require or that you have some exposure where it's going to be 82 degrees per radiant and 87 for just general indoor, you got to do all of these things.
Yep.
If you're public agency like police departments, your garages, uh, public works, your garages, your auto shops, and schools, um, your weightlifting facilities, which may be open to the outdoors, right? All of these things are going to be subject to the indoor heat wellness standard. So you need to take a look at that. The one thing that we were looking at for the outdoor, Matt, was the shade. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. So when you look at how they have it set up, so they state that if it is 80 degrees or higher ambient temperature, and this is, by the way, another difference between outdoor and indoor, is they actually utilize heat index in addition to temperature in the indoor, and they don't do that with the outdoor, which I find it's another difference that we're talking about here that's rather
Right,
curious. But yeah, so at 80 degrees, you must have you must have the shade present.
right. I'm showing it on the
At
screen.
Okay, so you must have it present. Below that, there is a you can request to have the shade available. However, there's no bottom limit to that. There is no like oh if it could be 30 degrees out and an employee might request that shade be present. And that obviously at 30 degrees, you're not worried about heat. The point of this standard is heat, not UV protection or protection from the sun. Now, that's a whole other conversation we could have. Obviously, that's a potential hazard as well. But specifically with this standard, we're talking about heat. So, why isn't there a minimum temperature at which that you must comply with a request for shade? Doesn't make any sense to me.
Like when the temperature is below 60 degrees.
Right. It's rainy. It's rainy and windy. You're wearing a
I
parka
need
because it's so
shade.
cold. Yeah, but you need shade.
Yes. Well, I can tell you, it's to line the pockets of CalOSHA, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's
That
about. Like, oh, you're now, I mean, again, like, I just start looking at this stuff, Matt, and I think, okay, from an environmental standpoint, from a this standpoint, okay, if I have to have shade structures available for 25% of the crew, and I'm going out there and we got 20 people working, I need 5, so I might need 2 shade structures. I got to carry
right,
these things. It's extra weight, it's extra cargo. It's another thing that pull out, set up, carry around, burn fuel on, all this kind of stuff. Like, just stop. Just give us a lower temperature range, right? That is reasonable,
right,
and
right,
let us do our thing here. It's I just find like, okay, this is really all coming out of agricultural, where people are out in the field all freaking day long, and it's hard to get to water, it's hard to get to a bathroom, there really isn't any shade. I get it. That's where this all started. But then to transfer this to public works, who's in and out of their trucks, moving here and there, going everywhere, and you got to carry around some artificial shade structure, even when there's no possibility that the temperature is going to get above 60 degrees for the entire day. Like, come on.
right,
But
right.
if you get pulled over, you get cited. If OSHA shows up on your site, well, you don't have shade available. Okay.
Yeah,
Is that even reasonable? No, and they don't care about reasonableness. No, we just defended a client, had 3 citations written differently for the exact same thing. Failure to maintain. Oh, because they didn't maintain according to this, that another failure to maintain. Oh, you didn't maintain this. Well, we did. We have an entire maintenance person. That's their whole job, is to maintain that thing.
right,
So
right,
again, it's just unreal kind of craziness. It, and I think the point here is understand how to mesh these two programs together, understand the nuances of the language, and make sure that your folks have water and that you have good plans around that. Make sure you're updating your outdoor heat illness or your heat illness injury prevention program. You know, that sometimes they refer to it the HIIP. Um, Make sure that you're looking at this, rewriting it. If you need help, you know, we can certainly do that with you, just to get all these pieces in place. But there's a lot of little twists and turns and twists and turns, especially with the indoor around the 82 degrees, whether or not they're wearing certain clothing, whether or not it's radiant heat. I don't understand. I don't understand it, Matt.
Right, right.
If
I know.
it's
And why at those levels? Why not? Why not? You know, you already have a standard that has 80 degrees as the level. You're only 2 degrees off. Why not just drop it to 80
right,
for indoor so that's the same?
so what you're telling me is that 80 degrees is arbitrary, completely arbitrary.
It does it right. Yeah.
Because
That.
if
Yeah.
if it was like at 85, right? Or I'm sorry, at 80 you have to have the shade set up, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but at 87 is when everything kicks in for indoor. That's 7-degree temperature rise. Why is it not 87 for outdoor then?
Right. Exactly. So maybe what? Because they don't have wind, or you know, or something like
Well,
that. I
but
don't know.
yeah,
But wind isn't there's no guarantee that you have wind. So
right.
you have to set the standard based on the worst possible circumstances, which is dry air, no movement. You know, the worst possible conditions that could impact the human body and not allow it to deal with the heat properly, which contributes to the onset of heat illness. So why would we have a different number?
Right.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me.
It
Okay,
makes zero
so
sense. You know, and again, even at the 82 with the radiant heat, well, if it's 87 for indoor heat, why is it radiant heat 82? Is the radiant heat hotter than the non-radiant heat? Like,
yeah,
is it 80? So 87 and 82 are different because of the heat source. You know, tell that to the
yeah,
kid that puts his hand above the flame, right? I mean,
right.
it's either 82 or 87. Are they the same? They're not. I mean, and again, like, go outside. What does it matter? It, it's 80. So they did this originally with the outdoor heat illness standard. I'm not sure if you were paying attention to it back then, but when they came
Sure.
out with it, it was 85, and then
Okay.
they
All
dropped
right.
it several years, maybe like 2 to 3 years later, they dropped it to 80 degrees for the shade. So it
Hmm.
was 85, and then they dropped it to 80, and they come out with this new indoor, and they start at 82 and 87. And you watch, they should drop it down to 8. I mean, it should just match. Again, someone's gonna have to, please, if you are some scientific, like, I need to call my daughter because she's, you know, doing all this, uh
She's into this stuff.
yeah,
She
she's
might be
at
able to help you.
college studying all this. But if can someone please explain the difference between me experiencing 82-degree radiant heat or 87-degree,
Yeah, in general.
like, if I'm not standing right, like, okay, if I'm a glass blower and I'm right up against the furnace, sure, I got a constant blast. But if like most of our shops and stuff that would be indoor, we walk into them, Matt, they may have a radiant heat source. It's just generally adding to the environment. Nobody's standing right up next to it. So what's the difference if it's 82 or 87?
Right, right. And now, so take a look at just back from the outdoor versus the indoor. Take a look at the state of California. Would you say, Steve, that there is a wide variety, a wide range of different climates in the state of California?
Absolutely.
Yeah, deserts, mountains, coastal, all that, right? So it seems to me that heat index would matter for outside because some are going to be not humid at all, some are going to be extremely humid. So why do we have an outside standard that only stresses ambient temperature?
Right.
and not heat index, but indoor we bring heat index into it.
Yeah. Let me put this on the screen again here because I'm looking at, temperature, uh,
Right.
illness, environmental, high heat procedures. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Like, does this mean that we're going to get an update to the outdoor now? Is that what's going to happen? They're going to kind of make those match. But
well,
of
again,
course,
it shouldn't. They just should have put the indoor right into this existing heat illness. You know
right,
why? Why?
right,
Just change heat illness prevention in outdoor places of employment to just heat illness prevention. Period.
exactly, exactly.
Unbelievable, man.
It really is. It really is. Yeah. It just, and that's the other thing is we've also seen indications of more stringent standards for particular professions, right? The occupations that we see this all the time. A good example is in the bloodborne pathogen standard.
Right.
Your anyone working in a lab is going to be subject to much more stringent requirements
Right.
working in that lab than bloodborne pathogen exposure in general in other occupations. Well, why don't we have the shade component that we're talking about? You talked about agriculture. That's a great example of an occupation that has extensive exposure to sunlight and to heat without ready fixes for that. Um, I can understand having, okay, let's have a segment for heat illness that's only for farm workers,
Right.
only for agriculture, or other occupations that are identified at some point as working extensively outside. I could see, for instance, some construction projects falling under this, especially if they're a little bit further away from established facilities where they can go to for a quick cool down
Yeah.
or anything along those lines. But then everybody else is working, usually working around someplace, or they're not out in the boonies anywhere. They can be under a more generalized heat standard like the one that we have right now. So then you're not carting around 100 canopies because you have a big crew,
Right.
and the possibility of someone requesting a shade at 60 degrees exists.
Right. Exactly. R50. I mean,
Yeah,
and those you always have one or two. There's
always,
always
always.
one
Yeah.
guy that's gonna be, oh, look at me, I'm cool.
Right.
Whoopoo. Is that workplace violence? Whoopoo, whoopoo.
Probably.
you know, get to
Yeah.
work. No,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, uh, yeah,
Yeah, it's just it is amazing the ways that they create more work than seems necessary or more confusion when KISS, right? Keep it simple.
stupid.
Yeah, exactly. Why not keep this simple? Why make this more complicated? And that's basically what they did with these two standards right next to each other, completely different sections.
Right. That's just unreal. I don't know. Well, good luck, folks. And if you need help
Yeah,
with this, let us know. We're out there to help you. We have our Dollar Training Club. Oh, we just added a bunch of courses to Dollar
yes,
Training
they
Club.
did.
So I should bring that up real quick and show because, yeah, we've added a bunch of new courses here. Integrated Pest Management, Silica Safety, New Supervisor 101. Speaking of which, we have our new indoor and outdoor heat illness. We have the SWOT analysis for risk managers. We also have bloodborne pathogens for 2024.
Yep.
A great course is our rigging signaler certification, fully online. So all of that's there for your viewing pleasure, and definitely take us up on that. And again, if you need help rewriting your plan, we've already done several for their clients for the illness. We're out there to give you a hand. So with that, we'll see you on the next episode of the Risk Control Show.
See ya, folks.